Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Afni Audya Putri. I'm from English Education Department 7th semester, STIT Muhammadiyah, Tanjung, Redeb. In this video, I'm going to talk about 2 points of language variation on Unit 9, namely language identity and user-related variation. For the first, I'm going to talk about language identity. Language has variations, especially in English, which varies at individual, regional, national, and even global levels. But it is very unfortunate because there are still many communities that do not understand language variations, such as social and regional dialects, especially the dialects of the community itself. Language is used in a country is influenced by different factors, and all these factors are related to each other. These factors can be regional, ethnic, and social. One of the common mistakes speakers of any language make is the question of standard and non-standard varieties of language. One of them is dialect, and people who use them are considered inferior to speakers of the standard variety. Therefore, people prefer to use standard dialects rather than non-standard dialects or other varieties. The choice is not only due to personal desire, but is a demand or rule in society, so that speakers may be a little pressured to follow these rules. However, some speakers also do not hesitate to prefer to use non-standard dialects. Some of these speakers consider that the use of non-standard dialects is an appreciation that shows a sense of belonging to their community or social group. There are individual variations in the use of language called idiolects. Over time, our language will change as it is influenced by the idiolects of other people with whom we interact. For that is to say, no two speakers speak in exactly the same way. Language identity is a socio-psychological concept. One language is part of a variety of languages whose users are culturally and politically conditioned to be regarded as one and the same language. So, standard or non-standard dialect is just a variation within a language. They remain in the same language, then have the same rights in their use. And then, I'm going to talk about user-related variations. In this point, there are some points that I will discuss, namely dialect, regional dialect, social dialect, pidgin, Creole, child language, and gender differences. Dialect. Dialects are variations of a language classified by geography. The term dialect comes from the Greek, namely dialektos. Dialect is defined as a variety of language whose use depends on who and where the user comes from. The characteristic of dialect is where, when speakers of several dialects of the same language still understand each other. For example, in Indonesia, Banyumas people use the Banyumas dialect and Surabaya people use the Surabaya dialect, but they still understand each other with the dialect of the other person. So, these dialects are variations of the same language, namely Javanese. Regional dialect. A regional dialect is a variety of languages spoken in a particular geographic area. Regional dialects are considered as different forms of standard language or common language, which can geographically originate from a province, rural area, or can also be specific to a social group. English is one of the languages that has the widest regional dialect in the countries that use it. In England, the well-known regional dialect is Cockney, which emerged as the social dialect of working-class London, but has been associated with the region in and around London itself. Sociolect. Sociolect is a language variation associated with employment status, position, age, gender, and social class, education, wealth, and prestige of a particular society. Standard English is classified as a social English which is only used by highly educated English speakers worldwide. For example, the teacher's dialect is different from that of a farmer, or the lawyer's dialect is different from that of a minimarket employee. Pidgin. A pidgin is a simple form of language variation of one or more existing languages and is used as a lingua franca by speakers of different languages. According to R.L. Truss and Peter Stockwell, a pidgin is neither anyone's mother tongue nor a real language. It has no complicated grammar, is very limited in what is conveyed, and different people speak differently, but for simple purposes, it works, and oftentimes everyone in the area learns to handle it. Pidgin English includes Nigerian Pidgin English, Chinese Pidgin English, Hawaiian Pidgin English, Kanaka Queensland Pidgin English, and Bislama Pidgin, one of the official languages of the Pacific Island nation of Vanuatu. Creole. Creole is the result or offspring of a pidgin language which then acquires native speakers and becomes the mother tongue for a group of people who have different backgrounds. The process of pidgin to Creole is referred to as nativization or creolization. Creolization is an expansion process, not a reduction process as is the case with pidginization. Unlike pidgins whose vocabulary is limited to one domain, Creoles have an enhanced vocabulary because they must cover the entire life of the speakers. French, English, Spanish, and Dutch are the languages most often used as lexifiers for Creoles and pidgins. Lexifier is a language that contributes vocabulary to pidgins and Creoles. Child language. Children's speech in terms of sociolinguistics can be concluded as follows. First, difficult to study. It means it is difficult to describe grammatical terms or the results of the utterance produced by the child. That's because what the child says basically becomes structurally simple. Second, the age of use of various child language can be said to be short, which is mostly used by children 1 or 2 years old and sometimes still used by children aged 6 or 7 years. Children tend to use polite language. It means this variety of polite language is usually used by children to show respect for the interlocutor whose position, age, or degree is higher, because if it is used to an equal or lower interlocutor, it will be less suitable and become stiff and less communicative. Child language variety has clear vocabulary forms and terms. It means vocabulary that appears in a child's language variety, not including dialogue, can appear based on the peculiarities of a family or group from the child's immediate environment. Gender differences. The use of formal and informal speech in men and women depends on different circumstances and levels. In certain circumstances or cases, men and women use different forms of polite and indirect speech. According to Gray, this distinction emphasizes that women have verbal intelligence language than men. In the study of Love and Stosny, differences in intelligence between men and women are shown through crying, where baby girls cry harder and longer than baby boys in response to stimuli that enter their minds. Where Dove specifically observed that there are language differences between men and women. Viz. The first is phonological differences. The discovery of differences in dialects in the UK led to phonological differences between men and women. Like Siberian Chaki, Men and not women often delete one of the phonemes N and T when they meet between two vowels in a word. And the second is differences in morphology and lexicon levels. In English, women often use color vocabulary such as mauve, beige, aquamarine, lavender, and magenta, while men do not. Redeb also said that English also has vocabulary based on gender differences, such as actor, actress, waiter, waitress, master, mistress, etc. Male language or female language is used as a generalization of male language behavior and female language behavior. Gray said that in the eyes of women, when men speak, they seem more linear, simple, not comprehensive, not showing emotion, using short sentences, and in the form of statements and hierarchically oriented. The language of women is also different from the language of men, who rely on logic. Women, in various ways, will always be involved with feelings and often deal with the pressures around them emotionally. Okay, that's all I discussed in this video. I hope you can understand it and hopefully useful. For your time and attention, I say thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.